We're catching this a little late, but it's still happening. We have two KATYUSHAs blasting a barrage over towards the German lines. You can see one plane getting destroyed, another plane getting hit a lot and also getting destroyed. But it doesn't mean that... Alright, howdy boyos. Welcome back to Steel Division 2. Today we are taking another look at the Burning Baltics DLC. Today with a cinematic perspective of a battle I did just a couple days ago, where I was playing as one of the new Soviet divisions added in the Burning Baltics DLC, and we are playing against 4 of the new German or Axis divisions added in the Burning Baltics DLC. I kind of asked a question like, hey, do you guys want to see more cinematic replay, you know, very low to the ground, some cool battles? Or do you guys want to just have another live gameplay session? And it really felt like a lot of people were asking for the cinematic version, so that's what we're going to be doing today. Kind of interested to see myself how it goes. If it's a great success, and ooh, that was a bit brutal. If it's a great success and people really like it, we'll definitely do some more of it. So just before we jump into the battle, a quick little look at the perspective. My allies are on the far left and the far right side, and there was an ally sort of splitting the middle with me. I will be mostly on this left side and the far front right side. As well, this town and the bridges over here are something I'm going to be fighting over quite heavily. For now, we're going to be going into the cinematic camera, and I hope that you guys like this. If you have any suggestions or comments or any ideas for this, do let me know in the comment section. I always try to make the videos as interesting as I can. So it looks like on the far right side, a KV-1S is currently in a duel with a Tiger, and you can actually see some Soviet infantry trying to cross between the tanks that are engaging each other. Now, technically speaking, I would really not want to be inside of this KV-1S as it's engaging the Tiger. You see shell bounce off of there of a 76mm gun of the KV. It's not going to feel so good there. Yeah, the KV-1S is destroyed. The Tiger is allowed to move up, but the KV-1S did buy enough time for this infantry squad to at least get into cover. But it looks like the AI has had enough and they are running back. We do see some more reinforcements coming in and some initial Soviet losses, or actually German losses, of trucks here on the right side. On the far left side of the map, in this little village, we have Soviet infantry supported by another KV-1 as they are engaging German forces in the town. There is a Puma, well, was a Puma with that 50mm gun. That just got knocked out in a direct duel with a KV-1. We have some German infantry on the side here. Looks like they are of the new SS unit that's been added based by their camo. Ooh, that guy just got destroyed. Looks like they have acquired PPSHs. And oh, they may have just surrendered to the oncoming Soviet forces. KV and Soviet forces are pushing past. Yeah, they've definitely surrendered, and they've been brought back behind the lines. The KV-1S is pushing up as we have machine gun fire hitting the Soviet Guard rifle forces. They're sitting up in a building, and take a look at here. We have a, what is this? Well, whatever it was, it's destroyed now. Very unfamiliar to me. It almost looks like a 221, but like a transport car version of it. And we have a Flak 88 being set up down the road, with the crew actively trying to, it looks like, engage that KV-1S that was in the village. And I can't imagine that KV is going to feel so good anymore. And that is indeed a negative. The KV has been knocked out. We have a Maxim with the quadruple machine gun trying to get the hell out of Dodge before it gets Flak 88 down the road. Over towards my middle part of the map, a friendly KV and a friendly IS-122, okay, just make that the KV, are currently engaging a Panzer IV that's further down on the opposite road. The KV, however, realizes it's not able to hold the line, especially not with the IS-122 destroyed. The Panzer IV is currently, however, busy destroying this Soviet infantry squad, and the Panzer IV is actually supported. This is the half-track I was referring to. It's one of those basically leicht Infanteriegeschützes on top of a half-track, and it's got a very high fire rate. and it's actually very, very, very destructive against the Soviet infantry here in the area. So I was talking about a Panzer IV, and while looking for the half-track that's now back there with the short 75, the Panzer IV was knocked out, I think by one of my AT guns. So that is good. The middle is now a little bit more secure. That half-track with the 75 is pretty dangerous. We are just joining battle as we follow our partisan units in a fight in a tree line on the middle right side of the map. We are just in the forests off to this village with the river that's basically securing or splitting the map here. And my infantry is in a fight with another squad. Currently, that's not a huge deal. But if we look a little bit beyond that, besides the squad that they are currently engaging, which looks to be Estonians, perhaps, there is a whole other company coming in to reinforce the currently engaged units, and they are going to absolutely outnumber my little bit of low-quality infantry currently trying to hold this part of the map. Now, I did have another squad who are currently helping to ambush the reinforcements. You can see this guy with the DP hip firing his machine gun off into that formation. But is it going to be enough, you're asking? And the answer is pretty much no. There is just too many Axis forces here. It looks like we even have some French World War I or World War II style rifles. This is definitely not the cream of the crop of the Axis military, but neither are they fighting against the cream of the crop of the Soviet military. And we are in a world of hurt down here with our squads retreating. You can see them just down there in the bottom right of the screen, and they've suffered some severe casualties. Looks like our first real air support is on the way. A Focke-Wulf with a bomb is coming in to, looks like a bomb near my part of the map. Now it is currently looking for a target, and it looks like it's making its dive run right on top of that T-34. The question is, did it hit it? No, that T-34-85 survived. Looks like it's even got a guard's flag there on the side of the turret. That T-34-85, not in a huge world of trouble. We are just on the good side, and I say, you know, good side, Soviet side of the bridge with the town splitting it, or the town with the bridge splitting it. And it's currently engaging those Axis forces across the river who made my guys retreat earlier. And now they are definitely going to have to be on the run when this T-34 just blasts some machine gun and 85mm high explosive into the forest. We just catch a Flak 88 as it's trying to engage Soviet forces, but it's also currently being ambushed by one of my troops. However, my troops are now being ambushed again by a German new MG-26 squad. These guys are armed with MG-26s. It looks like MP-34s. There's a lot of subpar equipment. The ZB-26 basically being a Czechoslovak, I think the original Bren gun. The MP-34 obviously being an inferior MP-40. But they were not able to save that Flak 88 from destruction, but they are currently engaging one of my squads who are very much, as you can see, close to being dead. And there goes the last member of that squad. Some blood looked like it just flew out of him. But that squad lived long enough to at least take down one Flak 88 on this side, but it didn't live long enough to, you know, survive and live to tell a tale. It looks like there was a squad here engaging my friendly's KV, but it doesn't look like they're able to engage them still. And we have a Panther now in the field, and this is where it starts getting scary. This Panther is pushing in to support the German infantry to try and knock out that KV-1, but it very much looks like the KV-1 that pushed into the forge just got knocked out by multiple infantry, either with their Panzerfausts or their Geballte-Ladung or Haftholladung. We are back at the town with the bridge, or the two towns with the bridge in between. Currently, we have multiple infantry. Both are partisan-looking units and actual Strelki, together with a Maxim, pushing up to the southern part of the town. Plane going down in the background, very cinematic. Southern part of the town here, south of the bridge. Our goal is to try and eliminate or suppress enough Germans and Axis forces across the river to eventually make it across and set up a bridgehead on the other side, as I believe this is one of the capture zones needed to win the battle. Axis forces are being absolutely annihilated. They are pinned, and that is a very destructive hit from an, I think, a high explosive shell from a tank. The guys hiding behind that broken T-34 are no more. My first troops are trying to cross the river here. You can see they have got their rifles and guns above their heads as they're crossing the river. Machine gun and artillery fire is coming down on this T-34. It's on the bridge, but the partisan squad made it across. They're trying to get into the buildings, and then once they have a base of fire set up on this side, but that's a no. Whenever they do, the Strelki will follow and support them, but for right now, they are being heavily machine gunned, and without any proper leadership, they are running back. We do have two M3 or M2A1 half-tracks blasting around with their 50s, and now they are currently trying to engage German aircraft flying over, probably bomber aircraft. Looks like we got more and more German aircraft flying over as well. T-34-85 is pushing along the bridge, trying to get a bridgehead going for the troops coming in behind it. Two Soviet 130mm extreme heavy mortars are being wheeled into position just behind my main line. The goal here is to get them into that thick forest and start lobbing rounds at the Axis forces pushing on the middle and the left side of the map. And pushing they are, because right here in the open field, infantry is crossing into definitely Soviet lines, and we do not have anything currently able to cover this side of the map. You can see some infantry that's currently being engaged. So what it looks like right now is this is Allied. If we zoom out right now, this here is of the Allied position, but they have this big bulge that's basically threatening to flank my positions right here in the forest. Looks like one of the new Arado seaborne spotter planes is on the way. Now this thing is very nasty, not because of anything it carries itself, but this does have the access to call in, I believe, naval barrages on the map. Luckily, my 37mm autocannons are now starting to harass it, thus turning it to smoke. Hopefully we can knock it out before it comes back. But as you can see, 37mm autocannons hitting it very effectively, actually knocking it out of the sky. That 37mm gun that's right there is actually currently being engaged by a Panzer IV. Well, the Panzer IV is covering for Axis infantry that's pushing towards my lines. This 37mm isn't feeling so hot. Luckily, it is moving out of the way before it gets completely annihilated, but it's bad. That's a good angle that Panzer IV had on that 37mm, and it did cost some damage. That German bulge position that is forming on the left side of the map, there's two of them, and they are blasting as fast as they can, which isn't actually very fast considering they are very large mortars with, a very long reload time. You can see some more friendly partisan infantry running past the mortar on the way to become a glorious partisan troops to hopefully hold back the German advance, as our 130mm are currently aiming and reloading their next shell for the next volley. I wasn't able to get this on camera, but this ZIS-57 not only just knocked out an enemy Panzer IV, which was pretty good in and of itself, it also managed to stop the attack on this side of the map, the little salient or bulge that was forming, as they knocked out an elite German Aufklärungs or recon panther in the forest. You can see the SS infantry doesn't care about that. They are pushing up and they are ready to get here to the edge of the forest, where they're going to start engaging troops that are out in the open, not in much cover. There's a Churchill here, a Lend-Lease Churchill, obviously sent through one of the ports in the north like Murmansk. This Churchill is currently engaging some of the German troopers on the other side of the tree line, mostly with its machine gun. I'm not really sure. This looks like it's a 57mm armed one. I'm not really sure if that's very effective against infantry or even has HE, but currently two of its machine guns are engaging the Germans. The turret is rotating. looks like it's taking some fire over from the right, hitting another Churchill to its left. They're still advancing across the open field. We do have broken KVs here. There's the Burning Panther that our Zis managed to knock out. But they are suppressing the X's infantry in the forest. So without that Panther, these Churchills have relative impunity for the time being. They spot an enemy vehicle on the road, and that happens to be dead. Happens to be what looks like a 37mm anti-tank gun, or perhaps even a 20-28mm anti-tank rifle that was knocked out before it caused too much harm. We're just able to catch up with one of the new Ur bombers. They carry a bunch load of bombs, but it wasn't meant to be. It managed to get its bomb load off, but it's crashing into the forests here, and it doesn't look like any of the pilots or crew survived. Perhaps we could send a rescue mission after, but yeah, the Ur 2 doesn't look... looks like it's seen better days. Far north, away from any friendly reinforcements, just gets knocked out by a Panther from quite far away, all the way across here, as the Panther is protecting the vanguard of more German units arriving. Now this right here, this IS-2 that just got blown up, is actually part of a larger play that's going on over here, where this objective is currently only covered by a PaK-40 anti-tank gun and about 2 squads of infantry. So later on, we'll come back to that. I actually send quite a large push of Strelki with some partisans, and they will be able to make it up the road here. As you can see, the PaK-40 is currently engaging contacts down this same road. It's the same road where the KV-1S died due to the Tiger. As you can see, the PaK-40 is engaging some Soviet infantry as they are trying to get into cover, and the PaK-40 has a perfect field of fire on them there, and that was very close to some of the leading infantry. They are now trying to switch directions, get away from the raw. They're now pinned. They're not going to feel so good when that PaK-40 is done with them. You can see mortars and shells coming out from the German side of things. And it looks like there's more than one mortar heavily, actually it looks like there's more than 2 or 3 mortars currently engaging Soviet forces. We got 2 82mm mortars that I've set up in the forest on the other side near the KV. So you can see right here, this is my current position. This is where the KV-1 was. Our 82mm mortars are now sending a mortar barrage of smoke to stop this PaK from seeing anything. We're dropping smoke on the objective buildings that are just on the short side of the entrance for us in there. You can see a bunch of Soviet reinforcements with T-34s and trucks full of infantry, and then we are going to push our glorious automachiki, which are armed with nothing but PPSHs. Automachiki, I'm assuming meaning much like automatic or automatics. They are pushing into the cover of the smoke. Any Germans here are not going to have a lot of time to respond to this brutal charge. I don't know why I started to say beautiful and brutal, and it came out as beautiful. This brutal or beautiful or both charge into that smoke. They're currently engaging on the move. Contacts are spotted. They hold, trying to eliminate the Germans that are suddenly spotted here on the other side of the smoke screen, and they're not able to really fight them back. Even the MG42, they're just going to get mowed down in the pure firepower. Even the twin MG42, it's not enough. But realize this is all happening in that smoke screen that my machine guns, or my mortars set up. Automachiki are pushing out of the forest. They're covered by Strelki here. It is actually our Strelki with the machine gun, the SVTs, a couple PPSHs. Their job is to get into the other buildings and set up cover positions for the Automachiki to get further into the town. They are, however, getting mortared and artilleried here, and there's trucks driving up the road with more German reinforcements in the background. We're catching this a little late, but it's still happening. We have 2 KATYUSHAs blasting a barrage over towards the German lines. You can see one plane getting destroyed, another plane getting hit a lot and also getting destroyed, but it doesn't mean that it's not cool with the both the KATYUSHAs now running back, being out of ammo. We're gonna have to get resupplied, but it was very cool seeing them blast off into space with like 48 rockets each. We have a WW2 or DO217 just dropping a huge payload of bombs on that village that I was covering on the other side of the town, or the river. And as you can see, that was a pretty damn good bombing run. Stunning, if not just outright annihilating a lot of the Soviet forces, including my own. And it didn't even take that much return fire. It only looks a little bit damaged. That one is making it back off the map to bomb another day. On the right side of the map, a T-34-85 sits right next to an ISU or SU-152 as it gets obliterated. This is right in that little village where we managed to smoke the Pak-40, push in our units, and get some eyes on here, and we secured the objective. But currently, they are engaging Germans on the other side of this little ravine, and currently those Germans have some good stuff set up here to try and counter us, including a Panther. And the Panther is totally fine with this engagement, as it's able to dictate at this range the engagement for sure. And we do have a Panzerwerfer, which actually seems to be alive, next to a broken German truck, but no one seems to be caring about this Panzerwerfer, which would actually be a good thing if we destroyed that. But currently, the T-34-85 and that 152, they're running out. You can see there's just a 152 who's getting a shot back in, currently also being engaged by a flak gun from the right side, and the crew in here is like, nah, we're good, we're gonna get out of here. Barely gets out of there, I should add, by the way, and is definitely damaged and stressed. So we have to figure out a way to defend this part, which is now still manned by my Avtomachiki and my Strelki. We do have a large part, look, about 2 or 3 squads worth of partisans running around here, but they're currently getting artillery, so there's not much there for them, really. There's currently a huge push coming in from the Axis here in the middle of the map. We have a buttload of half-tracks, infantry. We have Stugs, we have Panzer II Luxes over here. They're all trying to drive into the area that should have been protected by me and my AI. Now, I wasn't able to do that because I didn't really have any good open area guns. I did get some BS3s, which are the 100mm guns, but I didn't get them until Phase C, and they just had already covered this entire road with German equipment, which made it very hard to get a good position on the flank. And what is this? We have an IL-2, or actually this is an SU, barely making it back to base after a gun or bomb run. As you can see, it barely makes it back. This is going to take a while to repair. It did make it back, so that's important. Here come those BS3s we were just talking about, those 100mm heavy anti-tank guns. I believe this is the same or a very similar gun as you find on the SU-100. Now, like I said, the downside is I got them super late in the battle, and they were not really capable of dealing with light enemy vehicles because they take such a long time to aim and reload. Every time you knock out an enemy half-track, 2 or 3 enemy half-tracks are able to just sneak on by you. These are really good for knocking out heavier enemy equipment. They're just not capable of dealing with a lot of light enemy equipment in a smart and fast fashion. With heavy rockets is going to attempt to do a rocket run, as Germans are actually doing a rocket attack on the back right there with a Panzerwerfer. It's going in for the strafing run. It has its target. Question is it going to destroy it? No, it actually misses. And this Stug does not really seem to care at all that it just got rocket run by a PE-3. Instead, it's actually just blasting away. You can see some of that German rocket artillery that we saw coming out earlier hitting that forest, and guess what? That plane you see crash there just in front of this M2A1 half-track, full of infantry by the way, is the PE-3 BIS we just saw doing an attack run. Our BS-3s are now on a ridge overwatching this sector, and they are currently trying to engage German contacts on this road, and there's actually quite a bit of fire coming out from these guys right here. It's just that they're not able, again, to deal with the amount of stuff that's here, and when the Germans retreat just out of range, I have to push them out onto an equal field where they no longer have the altitude advantage of being able to shoot from this little ridge or cliff down onto this open plain. And then the closest cover is basically right here, right there. And that would put you right in the range of some of their units. So the BS3s are just in a very awkward spot where they weren't able to provide any accurate fire at close enough ranges where they could knock out some heavy German tanks. And all the half-tracks and stuff that are driving around back here are basically just child's play. Here's another one of those 20 or 28 millimeter anti-tank rifles mounted on a half-track, I believe. And it's just not really worth using a 100 millimeter AP shell on, which also seems to miss there once, twice. BSs are reloading. This guy has no clue what's happening to him. And then he obviously gets destroyed. But it took them 3 shots to destroy a little armored car, and there's a lot more of those where that one came from. So, up the ramp on the middle right side, we have 2 T-34-85s backed up by an ISU-152. Make that just 2 T-34-85s. Their job here is to try and eliminate as much of the enemy vehicles as possible, because the infantry around here in the forest is having a very hard time dealing with all the enemy equipment. And there is just like so many freaking half-tracks, and they're destroying 1, they're destroying 2. I believe they just destroyed a Tiger tank, which is good, because then I can focus on the more important things, like, you know, knocking out all these half-tracks. But they have 20 millimeters. They are spraying a buttload of machine gun ammo at them, and they're actually causing them to be stressed, missing their shots, and actually being forced to retreat in the eyes of more German infantry here, actually armed with both a DT machine gun, SVTs, and PPSHs, as we do want to not get too close to these guys with their anti-tank weapon. An enemy BF-109 gets behind 2 of the new Yak-9Ts, but it decides to stop chasing them after taking severely heavy fire and actually, well, getting absolutely shot down. The 2 Yak-9Ts, however, luckily didn't get shot down, but they are not able to continue to fight, and they have to retreat. But at least they didn't died and exploded like that BF-109 did. But they are going to have to retreat and repair while we have enemy rocket artillery coming in on the Soviet back left side of the map. We have our KATYUSHAs. They are reloaded, they are ready, they are aiming. They each have 48 rockets, and they are blasting them, trying to stop the Germans or the Axis from pushing up too hard. As you can see, this is a very, very destructive, getting lots of hits on infantry, a Panther there in the forest. We have a Sturmgeschütz, a half-track. I don't think that we were capable of knocking out the Panther that is now currently fleeing for its life. Imagine you're inside of that. You hope that, oh, that was a little bit, but you hope that not one of those rockets hits your tank directly, because you might have to say goodbye after that. But it manages to escape the rockets, but the infantry around that right here is not having a great time. They're trying to get through the marsh, as well as getting rockets landing pretty much right on top of them. But now they at least have the armored support from the Panther, from the half-track over here, and a Sturmgeschütz right behind that. So there is a lot of firepower here still on the middle right side of the map. An IL-4 heavy bomber sets out to try and deliver a payload on top of some German units on the far right side of the map here. We can see artillery shells dropping left and right of this IL-4 as it's making its way into and above German lines. Now this is pretty much a suicide mission, as it's starting to take fire, and it's starting to take fire from not just one, but multiple cannons, dropping its payload. And now the pilot turns his plane around. You can see some damage starting to form, smoke coming out. It's going to be a very tough flight for this guy to get back. And he doesn't actually at all. He crashes pretty much near that area where we had our mortars hit the Pak 40, and currently we are no longer in control of this area, as there is not really much to be in control of. As you can see, it's all just broken down. The only thing that's still alive is the windmill. Our 130mm mortars are still trying to engage our enemies. They are, however, very, very close to being overrun. Currently, you can see they're actually being rocketed. There are German infantry less than 200 to 300 meters away from their position. But it doesn't even really matter because they're just getting rocketed into absolute smithereens by, I believe, a Vielfachwerfer from over here. The Vielfachwerfer just has a bunch of tiny-ass rockets, and Vielfach literally means multiple. So this is literally a multiple launcher, or a many multiple launcher, as it's still launching rockets at my 130mm mortars. I think it's decided it has shot enough rockets at them, but yeah, they're not feeling so hot in that forest anymore. We do have a buttload of T-34-85s coming in right now to back up those 130mm mortars. Probably not going to be enough, as the game is pretty much over. The Soviets have been pushed back hard with only a couple minutes to spare in this map. I guess with a couple minutes left, we can easily now take a look at the entire map. I'm going to show you what happened, and it wasn't very pretty. The left side managed to hold on pretty well. We can take a look here. This town where the KV was engaging that Puma managed to hold on relatively well. It's just that when they started sending in their Panthers, we have a Stuka Safus right here. It's probably going to just blow. Actually, is it going to start blasting? Or that might be its, yeah, it might be its actual backup gun. The left managed to hold relatively well. Then my forest with those 160mm, not 130mm, my apologies. This is all basically friendly territory that we had to surrender to the Germans once they managed to sneak into these areas here, and we weren't able to deal with the enemy Panthers. You can see my T-34s are trying to actively engage the infantry that's right in front of it, as also a PaK-40 here. Then this area was really hard. This initially here and here was under my control, but with again the same story, Panthers, Panzer IVs, and flak guns pushed me off of this point on the map, as well as not being able to use my aircraft for close support because of the Flak 88s and heavy anti-aircraft guns. Then this was the area the BS3s had to cover. There just wasn't enough time. You can see them actually currently being artilleried as they're trying to find targets here, but they're all hiding, and we are low on men at this point. I didn't have any more infantry to call in. This town and the river have been totally captured by the Germans. We got pushed out of this very hard. It didn't help that they had a lot of heavy bombers to knock over our stuff, and they just basically destroyed all of that. We also managed to lose our Katyushas that were destroyed here in the forest. A little bit sad, but there's not much you can do. And as you can see, they've basically even now cut us off from our own units here. They now own this bridge, so any units on the left side and the right side are now cut off from each other. On the right side, I actually managed to do, I think, relatively well, though it wasn't my flank. I was able to keep the forest a little bit under my control. This is, you're looking at the very end of the game, but I was pushing T-34s in here. These forests over here were mine for a very, very long time. Especially this flag was fought over very, very hard to try and keep it under Soviet control. Then on the far right side, I think I relatively did the most for my team. I was able to capture this and this position. And in an attack that we didn't manage to find in this highlight reel, I did sneak quite a large formation of these Chorno-Pijachniki, totally mispronounced that, I'm sure, and a bunch of Strelki regular forces to try and capture this back. But guess what happened? Infantry in a tree line here with MG-34s and Panthers were able to, together with all of the heavy artillery that's back here, sort of keep the enemy in control of that area. We have Wurfrahmen here with those 280mm rockets on them. It was just an absolute bloody massacre. This was a pretty decent game. It's a shame that we weren't able to get a little better of a result. I really thought that we did an alright job, but in the end, you know, I had a lot of kills second in the game with only about 110 points behind the second best in the game, with pretty alright losses. We were really only the second worst on losses by, you know, close to 1,000 points, but they didn't really do much in terms of kills. So second on losses, very close to the best player, best, you know, member of the game. But we did pretty good. I really tried spreading my units around. I personally hope that you guys enjoyed watching this more cinematic perspective of a battle. If you want to see more of these, let me know in the comment section. For now, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll have to see you in the next one. Cheers.